From the time we are born to the time we perish, reading becomes a part of life that provides meaning and understanding in the world. Growing up, I admit that reading was not a real strong suit of mine. I remember being the top reader based on accelerated reading points in the second grade, but I also remember reading books that were very easy and at a much lower reading level than I truly was. Big books, as I called them, were very hard for me to sit down and focus on. I look back and remember the struggle I felt trying to concentrate on a book, although I really desired to read it. This conflict was something I struggled with each school year. Once the doctor diagnosed me with ADD, I had a better understanding of why it was so hard for me to concentrate on reading. I wish that I could say I had an amazing experience that helped expand my knowledge and vocabulary, but the truth is, reading was dreadful then and remains to be a struggle for me as an adult. I guess if I sit and think about it, reading for me is like going to the gym. The hard part is getting there, but once I'm there, I can complete my workout and wonder why I had questioned going in the first place. Similarly, once I open a book and become involved, I cannot put it down. As a reader, I am somewhat clumsy and slow. It may take me reading over the same paragraph a few times to fully understand what the author means. I have also learned that if I read something all the way through and then reread it, I find different meanings throughout the text that I did not notice the first time through. Many teachers used popcorn reading method when I was going through school, which made me very uncomfortable. I would sit and look at the paragraph I was reading to try and say the right words without making any mistakes, without stumbling through the text too much. I lost all focus on what the text was saying to make it through the humiliation of reading out loud. As a non-reader, I know there would not be any public humiliation that came about through the lack of being able to pronounce words correctly. I was in a safe haven, if you will, that made me feel secure. Also, only geeks were the kids who read books during lunch, so everyone said. It is easy to say that being a non-reader was easier than being a reader during middle school and high school, but now I realize how much I missed out on. Books contain words, and words contain meanings. By being a non-reader, I have missed out on learning meanings and having a deeper understanding about life. I took the easy way out by putting the big books back so I would not fail the AR test in fear of humiliation and incompetence. Growing up, I spent every weekend and weeknight playing or practicing ball. Luckily, I was so smart, I did not have to put much effort into my schoolwork. My dad never graduated from college because he was diagnosed with kidney disease and has had to have 2 transplants. My mother is a registered nurse who was the first to graduate college in her family. My parents pushed me in school, which I am very thankful for. If it meant they read a book out loud with me, then that is what we would do. Ultimately, they both wanted me to be successful in getting a solid education. If it was not for my parents, I would definitely not be where I am today, as I would have given up instead of sounding out that big word I did not know. I can specifically recall incidents that made me jealous of my peers who enjoyed reading. In 4th grade, I sat next to a girl, Sarah, who was reading a new book every day. One day I asked her why does she like to read so much, and how did she do it so fast, but she looked at me under her glasses and continued to read. One day, I timed her while she read Harry Potter. She was reading each page in 30 seconds. I ultimately offended her, and well, we were never great friends. Throughout middle and high school, I focused on being an athlete and playing Division I basketball. At one point in time, I had spoken with NC State, which was my dream. I did well in school, A's and B's, but I put my energy and effort into playing ball. 5 surgeries and 10 screws later, I realized that the game was something that could be taken away from me in a split second. But my education was something that no one could take away from me. I will shamelessly admit that I am not a great reader, but I do cherish and understand books and words much more than I did as a teenager. Social media, along with the internet, has truly evolved and taken over. Having access to a computer, iPad, and cell phone makes reading so much more convenient than having to go to the library to read a book or wait for the morning paper to be delivered to read the news. Through the use of technology, I can personally say that I spend more time reading and being involved in text. My favorite thing to do at night when it is time to wind down is to get in bed and start reading, although I refuse to read the news at night, as it seems to be so negative and sad. Technology makes reading convenient and very accessible. As I get closer to becoming a teacher, I realize and understand ways I want to incorporate reading, technology, and learning into my classroom. I understand that school is a scary place for children who are scared of failure and rejection, and I desire to create an atmosphere completely different than that. As I focus mainly on science, it is important to incorporate articles that feature current events that are happening in the science world, but it is more important that students can read this information confidently and understand what is being presented to them. I want to present content in an exciting yet fascinating way to capture my audience of students. As I focus on science, I also want to focus on literature. If this simply means using more advanced words and have the students look up the definition, or correcting a student when he or she uses the wrong pronunciation in context, I want to create an environment where students know it is acceptable to be wrong, that there will be no ridicule or embarrassing comments, and that it is okay to be a geek when it comes to knowing big words or reading big books in science or in any other subject. It is imperative that I create a loving, accepting, and caring classroom environment revolved around not only science, but language and literature as well.